Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. I'm Peter Loshak. He's Mike Brenner. We are the odds couple. Today is March 28th, and the MLB baseball season, Mike Brenner, is right around the corner.
Yes.
And I'm in the midst of my deep research for the entire MLB season, and we're going to do we're going to do some division previews here. We're going to cover all six divisions over the week. We're going to start with the AL Central, Mike Brenner.
Do you remember last time we talked about baseball? We were drinking a Smirnoff. We had a victory parade. Remember with the Cubs? It was good stuff. I hope we can repeat again. So.
Well, the interesting thing about baseball this year is that most years it seems to me. I mean, I didn't check this one specifically, but most years it seems like there's rough parity, and most of the divisions are roughly at least a two-horse race, if not more than that. This year it seems like there is a strong favorite in each of the divisions. In the AL Central, it's clearly Cleveland. I mean, people are thinking that Cleveland is one of the favorites to the world for the World Series, and certainly they have they've made off-season moves that makes them look like they might be a good bet, even though everyone is onto how good they are, right? Yep. They shored up their bullpen. The question will be how strong will Brantley be, and when will Kipnis come back? But Cleveland is not the kind of team that gets wildly overvalued like the Dodgers do, or like Washington does, and like Boston does, and stuff like that. Cleveland, I could see them winning as a modestly big favorite, game in and game out, and actually being a good bet this year, especially in the early going. What do you think?
Absolutely, Pete. Very well said. Terry Francona, one of the better managers in baseball. This is a team that's got other teams in the division that either are getting old or revamping. Now, you're looking at Kansas City and Detroit. Those guys are getting old, and I think they're going to be the ones overvalued. All right, I think Francona likes the fact that they're under the radar per se. Now, Kipnis, I know it's not going to be a big thing, but what they need to make sure right away is that they just kind of get that foundation and that momentum they had last year, which I think they will. Brantley's the big question mark because he pretty much was out all year, if not all year last year. So, but I think he's absolutely going to catch on quicker because he was so good for a reason, Pete. I don't see him needing a whole lot of time, and I think he's already had his rehab assignments that he needs. I think that's going to be a big, valuable pick on a futures to win the Central. And you know what? I think they might be a team total type of team also, and I think they could be, not the World Series, but I think they could represent AL.
Okay, yeah. And
look what they did last year. Come on.
Speaking of Detroit, I do expect them to be overvalued for the reasons that you said. They have a lot of aging players that still have names, but they're aging. They have a suspect bullpen, a subpar defense. So, in general, I do expect that Detroit to be overvalued. Now, they do have Daniel Norris might be a great pitcher, and Fulmer, of course, we know what he did. So, maybe not when those guys start. We'll see what the lines are. But overall, I do expect Detroit to be overvalued, especially in the early going. And if they start out winning a bunch of games, I could also see those aging guys fading towards the end of the year as well.
Absolutely. And if it's any indication, they were plus 800 opening on odds to win the ALCS. It's now plus 1,600. Like Kansas City had opened up at plus 12, and this is there's a lot of different books. But anyway, at one it was opened at 12, and now it's up to 25. So I think maybe that's catching up. KC and Detroit, all right, and the Chi Sox, I don't think they're going to be any threat. They lost their best pitcher and everything else, but I think Cleveland really knows that they have they're in the driver's seat. They know it in that division, but I think they're thinking outside of that box. I don't think that they, for 1 minute, don't believe they can't stand up to Boston and to Baltimore. Yankees might be one also, and I'm not trying to jump into the East, but
why don't you save that for when we do our AL East?
I will, because I read an article about them, and they were comparing it to the Yankees as far as being quiet underneath there, and might be the ones to look out for. And you say it all the time, Pete. All of this is based on the fact we have no idea what's going to happen injury-wise.
Yeah, right, exactly. Then moving on to KC. KC is an interesting situation. Of course, they had their World Series years, and then they regressed in a major way last year. They do still have that basic core of excellent players who will probably be gone soon, but for this year they will be there. I'm thinking actually KC might return to being, to what we've seen from them in years past, where they were a little bit of an undervalued team. I'm expecting them to maybe be slightly profitable and to regress a bit back to what we saw from them in their World Series years. Now, their bullpen might not be nearly as great as it was, and that's a big X factor. But I'm still thinking that the basic formula for KC to be an undervalued team, a little bit under the radar, despite the fact that they did, have their World Series years, might be in play here. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out for that. Not sure if that's going to happen. Something to be keeping an eye out for. And
you're referring to players like Hosmer and Gordon, Alex Gordon and such. Now, Gordon, remember last year he started getting banged up. He's got those issues, and as those guys get older, all right, that's the reality. They better have something deep. But the bullpen concerns concerns me. And also, something huge happened to that team this year. They lost a pitcher. This pitcher died.
Yeah, right.
And Pete, and again, look at the emotions, what happened last year with the Miami Marlins. And again, I always have those thoughts in the back of my head. How do they respond to that? There's two ways you can go, right? That's what's going to really tell what that team's about.
Yeah.
But you know what? That team didn't win a World Series 2 years ago and be there 3 years ago, on a fluke. So, oh my God, it's Major League Baseball.
So my guess is maybe KC might be slightly profitable.
That
we'll see.
Could be. You know
White Sox, though, yes, as you mentioned, they are looking bad. They're looking like they're going to be a good fade, even though they're going to be. Even though everyone knows they're going to be bad, at least in the first month or two of the season, the offense looks very weak. Maybe we'll see some unders, but
And not a lot of people talk about it, but this is a fact. They are the one team out of every team in Major League Baseball that 2 years ago had the most drastic change on their roster. Right, that didn't please them. They've already started, taking away from that.
Yeah.
So you have totally a rebuilding team. If you look it up in the dictionary, the word rebuilding, you're going to see they're
rebuilding. So what that means is that look for some of those players, some of those players to come up in the second half of the season, or maybe in September. Then things might change. But I do think to start out, we might see unders with them because they're so weak offensively, and definitely look to maybe even be an auto fade, even though people are expecting
the word is back. I love it.
Now the Twins are a different situation. They're definitely going to be bad again. The question is how bad and how will they be valued? They do have some youngsters with some talent, and they might also be a huge underdogs overall. So I could see them actually not being terrible from a betting standpoint, and maybe having some value in spots at times. We'll see.
I don't know. Yeah, that's such a 10-foot pole for me, and so many dynamics last year with Molitor, all the manager and everything. It's just, I don't know. Something happened to that franchise, and when they lost the fan base that they did, Pete, I don't know. I got to stay off it. That's a team that I just see a lot of farm league type of players.
No, they got some guys like Buxton and Sano and Kepler.
I'm saying as they go, you're going to see some farm team type of players coming up in that organization, making some noise, like the Twins did back in the days when they were very profitable. All right, they had a bunch of no names before they all became names, and they played good ball. Very similar to what Billy Beanball was in Oakland. So I could see Minnesota as a Billy Bean type of ball team this year.
Okay, well, so I'm looking at them. They do have a core, and it depends on how they're valued, but I could see them
struggle though, buddy.
Yes, and they have a bad bullpen, an offense with some life. I also could see them having value with overs in general. So in general, I'm looking for the Twins to be bad, but maybe be profitable in spots, and leaning towards maybe having some value at times with overs. So that's my take on Minnesota. But I think Minnesota. It would not surprise me if they were actually minorly profitable, or even maybe in number 8 or number 6 in baseball keep in mind, in the first couple months.
I did some digging the other day. They have a very deep farm system as far as pitching. They got 2 lefties getting ready to come up, and I'm not kidding you. When you can get 2 quality lefties on one, let's say they blend into the rotation sometime during the year, that could be dangerous too. Because sharp left-handed pitching, that's a way to cash some tickets, especially on first half.
All right, so I'm going to have an eye out for Minnesota. All right, that wraps up our early preview, of the preliminary coverage of the AL Central.
We put some good stuff out there, Pistol.
For sure.
We're talking facts. We're talking about some good managers, and now let's talk about cashing some tickets.
Okay, now we'll move on to the AL East.
Well, this episode of The Odds Couple is over. But if you give us a like and click SBR's logo at the bottom of the screen to subscribe, then you'll get all the upcoming videos as soon as they come out. And don't forget to take advantage of our website. There's free picks, live betting lines, and sportsbook reviews and ratings guides, and a whole lot more. Check it out now.